My mom used my name and money for a luxury Europe trip with my sister, so I quietly canceled everything and let their vacation collapse. Hi, I'm Arena. They said it was just a mix-up, that I wasn't really excluded from the European trip, but the group chat disappeared. My name vanished from the itinerary and the bookings, all still on my credit card. I paid for the vacation, every flight, every hotel, only to find out I wasn't invited. Was it a mistake, or had they always planned it this way? And what do you do when the people you love treat you like a bank, not a person? Let me tell you what happened after I hit cancel. I knew something was off the moment I walked into the hotel lounge. The space shimmered with quiet luxury, velvet chairs, a fireplace crackling in the corner, and tall windows framing Portland's early spring drizzle. We were meeting for a pre-vacation toast, just the three of us, my mother, my sister Loris, and me. At least that's what the text said. Loris was already there, flipping her hair and laughing a bit too loud. Mom sat upright beside her, her smile too polished. A tray of champagne glasses rested on the low table in front of them, tall, elegant, each etched with a name in delicate gold cursive. Loris picked one up. "Cheers to us," she sang out. I stepped closer, looking for mine, but then I saw it. The glass with my name, Arena, was already in her hand. I blinked. "Wait, that one's mine," I said, trying to keep it light. Loris tilted her head and squinted at the glass like she hadn't noticed. "Oh, really? Huh? I thought it said Loris." "It doesn't." She shrugged, lifted the glass to her lips, and took a sip. "Anyway," Mom said quickly, motioning toward the chair opposite them. "Sit, honey. We've already started." So I sat in the one chair without a glass in front of it. Nobody offered to swap. No one laughed it off. No apologies, just silence and the sound of clinking crystal. I sat there, my hands folded neatly in my lap, swallowing every word I wanted to say. My throat was tight, but my voice, if I had chosen to use it, would have sounded too loud in that room. Instead, I smiled. They moved on. Talked about packing, about matching outfits for their Paris day trip, about how this time next week they'd be sipping wine in Santorini. This time next week. The phrase sat in my chest like lead. Later that evening, we met again at Mom's place for dinner. Same faces, different stage. The dining table was set like a holiday feast, which felt strange considering it was just a Thursday. Mom had a way of turning casual meals into scenes out of a lifestyle magazine. As we ate, she pulled out a color-coded printout. "So, here's the final itinerary for our little escape," she said. Loris helped with some of the adjustments. She laid it flat for us all to see. I leaned in. Venice, Rome, Barcelona, Paris. Each day packed with excursions, restaurant bookings, spa reservations, flight confirmations, hotel room pairings. Except my name didn't appear. Not once. Not for the walking tour in Florence. Not for the dinner in Montmartre. Not even as a +1. "Is this the final version?" I asked, pretending not to choke on the dryness in my throat. "Oh," Mom said, as if seeing the paper for the first time. "Must be a mistake. I'm sure we meant to include you, right, Loris?" Loris didn't even look up from her phone. "Sure. That was it." I nodded, smiled again, and excused myself early. On the drive back to my apartment, my mind ran like a broken metronome. I told myself it didn't matter, that it was probably just sloppy planning, that I'd bring it up tomorrow once I'd cooled off. But deep down, I knew this wasn't random. I remembered every year I'd paid for Mother's hotel upgrades, every flight I booked under their names with my credit card. I remembered quietly funding last summer's cabin retreat in Aspen when Loris's card declined at the last minute. They knew what they were doing. Back home, I kicked off my heels, sat on the edge of the couch, and opened my phone. There it was, or wasn't, the group chat, Family Eurotrip 2024, gone. No left the group notice. No farewell text. Just disappeared. I blinked, scrolled again, and then noticed a new chat thread in the list, Family Eurotrip 2024, with no trace of me in it. I wasn't removed. They created a new group without me. That stung more than the missing glass, more than the itinerary. They didn't want to hear me protest. They didn't want to offer fake apologies. They didn't want to give me a chance to ask questions. They wanted me gone. Quietly, I opened my inbox and typed Europe into the search bar. Reservation after reservation popped up: hotels, flights, dinner bookings, all originally made by me. Every one of them still under my name. I stared at the screen at the long thread of confirmations and receipts and automated thank you messages from booking platforms. Of course, they'd wait until everything was booked. Of course, they'd take, then remove. I closed the laptop slowly. The screen went black, and my reflection stared back. Calm, but no longer confused. I whispered to the silence, maybe they didn't just forget. Maybe they finally got brave enough to say what they meant. For the first time, the idea of stepping away from all of it didn't feel like surrender. It felt like relief. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual, mind quiet but alert in that eerie way your body sometimes gets before your mind has caught up. I didn't bother with breakfast. I didn't light a candle. I didn't even open the blinds. I just walked straight into my home studio and turned on the monitor. My inbox was still open from the night before. Same list of reservations. Same fake gratitude from the travel sites. Then, almost on cue, a new email arrived, forwarded from Mom's address. No greeting, just a PDF attachment titled Final Europlan Confirmed. I opened it. 3 pages. A hotel confirmation for a week-long European vacation. 3 rooms booked. My card listed as the payment method, but not one of those rooms had my name attached. Room 1, Velma, Queen Bed. Room 2, Loris, Deluxe Suite with Terrace. Room 3, TBD. May use for guest or storage. I stared at that line, guest or storage, and something inside me snapped so cleanly I almost heard it. They had turned me into an optional suitcase. I scrolled down. The day-by-day schedule followed, neatly formatted and color-coded: breakfast times, drivers scheduled, museum tickets, everything mapped out down to the hour. But where my name should have been in notes or confirmations, there was either nothing at all or the faintest ghost of my initials scribbled out in pen, like someone had printed the PDF, edited it by hand, scanned it again, and sent the new version. I zoomed in. There it was, AM crossed out in blue ink, slashed hard like someone was tired of even pretending I mattered. I didn't feel rage. Not yet. It was something quieter, a deep kind of insult that didn't even bother to be loud. I sat back in my chair, arms folded. They didn't just forget me. They erased me. Later that day, I had coffee with Naomi at a small cafe we both liked, one of those places with mismatched mugs and soft jazz humming in the background. She was already seated when I arrived. 2 cappuccinos on the table, one topped with cinnamon the way I liked. "You okay?" she asked, scanning my face. I shrugged, forcing a casual tone. "Long morning?" She hesitated, then leaned forward. "Look, I wasn't sure if I should say anything, but Velma stopped by the boutique yesterday. Said you weren't coming to Europe after all." I blinked. "She said that?" Naomi nodded, eyes flicking sideways. "She told us it was better that way, that you never really help on trips anyway." I didn't speak. She continued, she said, "You stress people out, that you make things harder." I reached for my cup and took a sip to keep from clenching my jaw. "Did she say that in front of everyone?" "No," Naomi said, voice softer. "She texted me after. I still have it." She unlocked her phone and scrolled, then turned the screen toward me. There it was, "Don't worry about Irina. She's always dead weight on these things. Honestly, this trip will be smoother without her." Dead weight. I smiled, that kind of smile people mistake for calm when it's actually restraint. I handed the phone back to Naomi. "Thanks for telling me. Are you going to say something to them?" "Eventually," I said, finishing my drink, but not with words. When I got home that night, I lit a lamp and pulled out my personal budget tracker, color-coded, meticulous, and updated weekly. There it was. Every single charge. Flights, $1,980. Hotel deposits, $2,600. Prepaid tours and dinner reservations, $1,080. Total, $6,260. All under my accounts, all pulled from my savings. I clicked on the tab named Europe May 2024. Double-clicked, renamed it Final Payback. Then I printed it. All of it. Each transaction logged, each timestamp verified. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need a confrontation. I had receipts, literal ones, sitting in front of my screen. I opened the payment dashboard linked to all my travel bookings. One button glowed softly in the top right corner, Cancel All. My cursor hovered over it. I didn't click, not yet. But I printed the transaction log and slid it into a blue folder labeled with my own handwriting, for when they ask. They always ask eventually. I tucked the folder into the bottom drawer of my desk, slid it shut, and leaned back in my chair. The quiet in the room wasn't peaceful. It was the kind of quiet that shows up when there's nothing left to argue with, not even yourself. I reached for my phone and opened my gallery, needing a mental break from numbers and receipts. I scrolled aimlessly through a sea of thumbnails, work photos, a few old selfies, snapshots of half-eaten pastries, and dusty fabric samples from client meetings. Then, without thinking, I tapped on an old album labeled Italy 2012. I hadn't looked at it in years. The thumbnails loaded slowly. The first one that caught my eye was of Loris, arms spread wide in front of the Colosseum, laughing, camera ready. I swiped again. She was twirling on a Venetian bridge, clutching a wine glass at a Tuscan villa, center stage at nearly every meal. Then I saw a group dinner photo, a long table, candlelight flickering off wine bottles. 3 birthday cakes were being carried out by servers. I remembered the moment, not because it was mine, but because it wasn't. That night had been my birthday, too. We were born 2 years and 1 day apart. Growing up, Mom always said it made sense to celebrate together. 2 birds, 1 party. But by the time we were adults, only 1 bird ever got the party. In the photo, Loris was clapping and beaming. 3 cakes in front of her, each lit with candles spelling her name. I was at the edge of the frame, out of focus, holding her handbag and sunglasses. No cake, no candles, not even a glass raised in my direction. I remembered what Mom said that night when I asked if I should order dessert. Don't be dramatic, Irina. You're not a kid anymore. And yet, Loris had 3 cakes. I backed out of the album and locked the screen. That moment hadn't been unique. It had just been the first time I stopped pretending it didn't hurt. Later that evening, I found myself reorganizing my bookshelf when a small travel notebook fell out. It landed face up on the floor, and I instantly recognized the handwriting inside. My handwriting from years ago. It was from our family trip to Santa Fe when I was 14. The first few pages were filled with day plans, hotel confirmation numbers, restaurant reservations. My teenage self had charted out the entire schedule, how long it took to drive from the airport to the rental cabin, how many minutes we'd need to check in, the exact time we should leave for dinner to make the 7:15 reservation Mom insisted on. And for what? While I mapped out logistics, Loris had gone to get a new dress tailored, a gift from Mom, just because she deserved something nice. That day, when I handed Mom the itinerary, she looked at me and said, "You're just better with logistics, sweetheart." Loris's mind doesn't work that way. It sounded like a compliment, but it wasn't. It was code for, "You'll handle the boring stuff so she can shine." I remembered standing by the rental car with the keys in my hand, watching them walk into the restaurant while I checked the gas level and parked around the corner. That was the moment it began. Not the pain, but the pattern. They didn't treat me like a daughter. They treated me like an assistant who had somehow wandered into the family photo. I sat on the floor with the notebook in my lap, feeling something settle in me that wasn't anger. It was recognition. It was never just about this trip. It was the years stacked behind it. All the erased names, all the edited moments, all the roles I filled so they didn't have to. I slipped the notebook back onto the shelf and grabbed my keys. 15 minutes later, I was parked outside the gym. I didn't get out. I opened my phone and pulled up the voice memo app and started recording. "This is for me," I whispered. "Not for anyone else." My voice was even. "You're not imagining things. You've never been crazy. They've always done this. You just kept hoping one day they'd stop." I paused. "But here's the truth, Irina. They won't stop because you've taught them that you'll survive it quietly. That you'll adjust, that you'll still show up. I took a long breath. But that girl, the one who used to make excuses for them, she's not driving anymore. Then I hit delete. Didn't even listen to it. Just tapped the trash icon and let the silence return. They've played this script so many times. But next time, I won't be in it. I'll be holding the pen. Friday morning started like any other until my phone buzzed with a voice message from Naomi. I was brushing my hair in front of the bathroom mirror, still in my robe, coffee untouched on the counter. I saw her name light up on the screen and thought maybe she was checking in about our lunch plans. We hadn't seen each other since her soft launch event 2 weeks back where I helped her redesign the cafe's back patio. But the voice message was short, quiet, not friendly. Hey, Arena. I didn't know if I should say anything, but I overheard something last night at the store. Your mom was talking to a friend. I think she didn't know I was still behind the register. She said, and I'm quoting, "It's fine. We used Arena's name to get the group booking rate. She won't come anyway." I froze, brush midair. Used my name. That phrase kept looping like a broken record. Not borrowed, not mentioned, not credited, used. I set the brush down, walked to the kitchen, and sat on the bar stool like my legs had just given out. My phone was still in my hand. Screen dimmed now, but Naomi's words echoed so loudly they didn't need a replay. Used me to get a group discount without telling me. After excluding me, I opened my laptop, fingers trembling but controlled. I knew what I was looking for before the screen even finished loading. My inbox, the original reservation thread. I typed in the booking reference and hit search. There it was. A string of confirmations tied to my professional business account. Tour reservations, hotel suites, even the group transportation shuttle from Charles de Gaulle. All booked through Arena Interiors LLC for discount verification purposes. I remembered Mom saying casually weeks ago. She'd forwarded the final itinerary to email. She hadn't copied me. I opened the PDF attached to the email. It was a print layout of the master plan, flights, dates, lodging. Velma was listed as primary contact. My company's name was plastered across the top, watermark and all. If any balance went unpaid, it would hit my credit, not theirs. I sat still, eyes scanning the screen, heart steady. I wasn't shaking anymore. I wasn't confused. I was documenting. Opening a fresh Google Doc, I titled it Trip Legal Liability Risk. I began copy-pasting screenshots, forwarded everything to a private folder, a breadcrumb trail they didn't know I could lay. And I wasn't finished because Naomi's voice had triggered something else. A memory. 2 years ago. Aspen. Loris had landed a short-term interior styling job at a boutique hotel. She'd posted about it nonstop on social media, so honored to bring a modern vision to this historic space. Clients and mutual friends praised her like she was a prodigy, but she hadn't pitched that client. I had. The hotel had reached out to me first. I was overbooked and recommended Loris, even offering to review her proposal. I sent her examples, gave her access to 2 mood boards I'd used in Santa Barbara and Monterey. She thanked me with a single-word text, noted. Later, Mom ran into the hotel manager at a charity gala and apparently took the credit. That's the kind of creative drive I nurtured in Loris, she had said. Nurtured? Like I hadn't been the one pushing Loris into those opportunities her whole adult life. Like I hadn't handed her my playbook and sat in the stands while she took the stage. I opened my archive of old design files, pulled up the hotel's public portfolio. There, 3 textile selections I had personally sourced and shared with Loris as inspiration, now featured in their lobby. Her name in the credits, mine nowhere. The insult wasn't new, but this time it felt engineered. I looked over at the clock. Almost 10 p.m. I turned off the lights in the living room, then walked into my study and flipped on the desk lamp, pulled the transaction folder from the drawer, and next to it started a new one. Label, Proof Trip Fraud. One by one, I downloaded every receipt, took screenshots of text messages, reservation codes, forwarded emails from months back. I even included my original pitch letter to the boutique hotel just in case this went deeper than I thought. Then I drafted an email to my attorney. I didn't hit send. Not yet. But I attached the folder and saved the draft with a subject line that read, "Contingency, just in case they try me." I closed the laptop, locked the drawer, and sat quietly for a moment. No tears, no sighs, just one sentence whispered into the dark, "Not this time." The next morning, I left the house earlier than usual, needing the cool air more than I needed breakfast. I grabbed a coffee from the drive-thru, pulled into a side lot near the studio, and dialed Mom. It rang longer than I expected, long enough to consider hanging up. When she finally answered, her tone was already sharp. "Irina, it's early. Is everything okay?" "No," I said plainly. "I saw the trip itinerary, the real one, and the receipts. You used my name. You excluded me. And now there's almost $4,000 charged to my business account." There was a pause. Not silence, just the kind of stillness where you know someone's debating whether to lie or double down. "Oh, honey," she started. That word felt like a slap. "You always overreact. It's just a vacation. You know how tense things get when you're involved. We thought maybe it'd be smoother if you took a break this year. You thought it would be smoother if I paid and stayed home. You're making this so much bigger than it is," she snapped. "And by the way, Loris offered to reimburse part of the hotel once she gets her bonus next month. We just didn't want you spiraling again. You always complicate things." That line sliced through me. Not because it was new, because it was rehearsed. "So what?" I asked, voice steady. "You just went ahead and wrote me out of my own plans." Another pause. Then a quiet rustle like she was shuffling through papers. "I can send you something. A document that shows you're not attending. That way everyone's on the same page." My inbox dinged before the call even ended. An email from Velma. Subject line, "Final trip headcount confirmed 5 to 2. Attached was a PDF with everyone's name listed neatly. Hotel rooms, flights, dinner reservations. Mine was nowhere. I didn't yell, didn't cry, just whispered, "You do realize this is fraud, right?" Velma's voice hardened. "Your family, Irina. Don't threaten us." I ended the call. By the time I pulled into the parking lot behind my office, another notification blinked across my phone. 3 charges back to back. $1,700. Air France business class, Portland to Paris. $860. Spa Jardin advanced massage booking for 2. $820. Chateau dinner tasting prepaid. All billed to the card I'd used to secure the original discount. I stared at the screen, jaw tight. Not because of the amount, because of the message, "You don't matter, but your resources do." I stepped into the studio and dropped my keys on the console, booted my computer, pulled up the dashboard again, checked timestamps, collected screenshots. No more silence. As dusk settled outside, I sat at my kitchen counter with my laptop open and my hands calm. I typed slowly, deliberately. Subject, unauthorized use, cancellation imminent. 2. Travel coordinator. CC, legal counsel. This email serves as formal notice of unauthorized use of Birch and Pine Design Studios' corporate accounts and travel arrangements. All bookings associated with Group ID Monroe Family Euro 2024 are to be suspended pending review. I changed my signature for the first time in years, Irina Monroe, founder, Birch and Pine Design Studio. Then I hit send. No dramatics, no final warning, just execution. I closed the laptop, walked out onto the porch barefoot. The sky was purple with the last light of day, and the neighborhood was quiet except for the distant hum of a lawn mower and someone's dog barking 2 streets over. For once, I didn't carry my phone with me. For once, I didn't care what they replied because I wasn't waiting anymore. I woke up to the sound of a chime, soft and persistent. My phone, left on the kitchen counter overnight, had stacked 3 new messages by the time I reached for my coffee. Sunday sunlight spilled across the floor, warm and golden. But my chest tightened even before I read the first word. Loris again. "Hey, random favor. Can you cover the villa deposit just for now? It's due this morning and Mom's card got flagged again. We'll totally Venmo you by next week." Next week? Just like last time. And the time before that. I sat down on the patio steps with my coffee in one hand and the phone in the other, rereading the thread. Every message from them in the past 2 months had started the same way. Casual, breezy, and followed by a money request. Not one said thank you. Not one asked how I was. I didn't respond. Not immediately. Instead, I pulled up the message history with Velma. Her tone from Friday still echoed like old water pipes. You always complicate things. Maybe I did. Maybe I complicated the narrative that they were so used to. I pay, they forget, I forgive. Repeat. Well, not this time. I walked back into my home office, opened a new document, and began typing line by line. Invoice reconciliation required before June 10th. Villa rental deposit pending, $500. Hotel reservation overages unrefunded, $2,300. Group flights, $1,600. Spa and dinner pre-charges, $860. Booking fees and admin time, $250. Total due, $6,510. I saved it as a PDF and attached it to a brief email. Hi, please find the itemized invoice for all charges currently linked to my personal and business accounts related to the trip. Kindly settle the balance before June 10th to avoid escalation. Best, Irina Monroe. I hit send. I didn't even close the laptop before the reply came in from Velma. One emoji, a laughing face, then a line beneath it. Oh, come on. You always handled these things. Don't get petty now. Petty? Petty for wanting back the money I fronted for a vacation I was deliberately removed from. I stared at the screen. A flash of heat swelled through my chest. Not rage, just a kind of exhausted disbelief that someone could be so unapologetically smug, so entitled. I took a screenshot of the message and filed it under Trip Fraud Legal. Then I forwarded it to my attorney with a brief note, add this to the folder. No explanation needed. That evening, as twilight stretched across the windows and the world got quiet again, I opened my dashboard for the travel agency. There on the right side of the screen were all the trip elements I had booked. Flights confirmed, hotels reserved, tours paid, all under my name, all still active. I clicked each item one by one and hit cancel. Confirmation emails pinged one after the other. Soft as raindrops. Refund requests processed. Group codes disabled. Primary contact removed. I refreshed the dashboard. A single line appeared in bold gray, all bookings cancelled. I leaned back, closed the screen, and just breathed. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt even. I had taken back what was mine without begging, without yelling, without making a scene. They'd feel it soon enough, not through words, but through the silence of their plans collapsing. The phone buzzed again. Another message from Loris. I let it sit there. Instead, I walked into the kitchen, poured a fresh cup of coffee, stepped outside, and let the morning take me. And I said it aloud. Not to anyone in particular, just the sky above. I hope they packed light. By Monday morning, I had already forgotten to check my phone again. That silence, that distance wasn't intentional at first. It just felt good. The kind of good that doesn't need permission or performance. I let the air move through the open window, listened to the sprinklers kick on outside, and watched the shadows shift on the floor while I sipped my coffee. I didn't need to imagine what was happening in Los Angeles. They were already at the airport. It wasn't until 6:03 a.m. that Naomi's message popped up. Girl, I think your mom's about to throw her shoe at someone. I blinked. Then came the photo, blurry but unmistakable. Velma, mid-sentence, heels in one hand, gesturing wildly in front of a check-in counter. Laura stood beside her with a phone pressed to her ear, face beet red. A second message followed. The airline turned them away, said there were no active bookings. Concierge said the names were in the system last week, but the payment link got disconnected yesterday. I put the mug down, smiling just slightly. No anger, no gloating, just satisfaction that the truth eventually catches up, even in terminals full of strangers. At 4:45 a.m., I imagine they walked in expecting warm towels and champagne in the lounge. Instead, they got a blank stare and a screen flashing, no active bookings. Of course, everything had been tied to my account. My payment codes, my agency partnerships, the corporate perks I used to secure their luxury experience, and now all of it gone. I scrolled back to Naomi's photo. She had circled Velma's shoes in a crude red markup. Never seen your mom barefoot in public. This is historic. Then came the third message. Less playful. Some people are saying you sabotaged the trip. Group text is blowing up. Someone even said, "You've always been jealous of Loris." I didn't blink. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my secure folder and added screenshots of each text thread Naomi forwarded. Every accusation, every whisper behind my back. I renamed the folder just slightly, for court if needed. Because if it came to that, if they spun this story far enough to cost me work or reputation, I wouldn't argue. I would just present the receipts. And I had plenty. By noon, mutual friends began posting vague quotes on Instagram stories, the kind that don't say your name but drip with implication. Real family doesn't make a scene. Some people are just bitter they didn't get chosen. Jealousy is ugly. One even tagged Loris and captioned it, "Paris won't be the same without you." Well, it wouldn't be the same, period. Because there was no Paris trip. Not anymore. By late afternoon, my inbox had 3 more notifications: failed check-in attempts, auto-cancelled spa bookings, flagged charges on the group card, all marked authorization mismatch, declined. I didn't reply, didn't explain, didn't defend. Instead, I opened a new tab. I looked up flights. Not for Europe, not for escape, but somewhere just mine. A quiet cabin in Vermont, a lake house in Oregon, a train ride across the Rockies. Nothing fancy, just something that wasn't attached to anyone else's expectations. That evening, as the sky dimmed and the living room filled with warm lamplight, I laid my passport on the counter. Not because I needed it for their plans anymore, but because I had plans of my own. I turned off the TV, slipped into my sweatshirt, and stood by the window for a while. Watching headlights pass. They had planned a trip without me. Now they'd have to survive one. The sky was still trying to decide between gray and gold when I walked into my studio the next morning. The house was quiet, just the hum of the fridge and the soft sound of my slippers on the hardwood. I set my coffee down beside the keyboard, opened the blinds halfway, and let the light stretch into the room. Then I opened my laptop. There were no alarms this time. No adrenaline. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was choosing, the way you decide to trim back a dead branch. Not out of spite, but because it's choking the rest of the tree. I clicked compose. The email wasn't long. It didn't need to be. Subject, final clarification. Velma, please consider this a clear record of the transactions charged to my accounts over the past 6 months in connection with the European travel plans. All linked reservations have now been cancelled. As of this message, I will not be covering any further expenses related to this trip. No further communication is necessary. I wish you well. Arena. I didn't CC my attorney. I didn't BCC Naomi or anyone else. This wasn't about covering bases anymore. It wasn't about proving a point. It was about reclaiming peace and doing it without their permission. I hit send and then I archived it. Then I blocked both of their email addresses, not out of anger, but because nothing good ever came through those inboxes. I sat still for a moment, one breath, then another. It was done. An hour later, my phone buzzed. Unknown number, but I knew that voice before she even finished her first sniffle. Velma. The voicemail started with fake softness. Honey, I'm worried about you. Then the switch flipped. You've cursed this family. Do you even hear yourself? You're tearing us apart. You think this makes you strong? You'll regret what you've done. We were family until you decided to play victim. I didn't delete the voicemail. I saved it. Named it simply, "Don't Forget," because even clarity fades if you let it. The sun was higher now, pouring into the corners of the studio, warming the floor under my feet. I opened a window, letting in the breeze, and leaned back into the chair with my eyes closed. Another buzz. This time, a text from Loris. Mom's not well. This stress is killing her. You need to fix this. That one I did delete. No hesitation. The script hadn't changed. Only my part in it had. I'd been cast as a savior so many times, dragged back in with guilt, with illness, with "it's too late now," but none of it was mine to fix. I glanced at the trash folder on my phone, then emptied it. Later that afternoon, I sat on the balcony. The street below was calm, the occasional sound of a lawn blower or passing car rising and falling like ocean waves. In the distance, a boy rode his bike in wide, lazy circles, letting the wind catch his jacket. I thought of my childhood, of the trips where I held all the bags, of birthday dinners where Loris got the candle and I got the check, and I smiled, not with bitterness, but with relief. Some endings don't require explosions, just closed doors that stay closed. I leaned against the railing, watching the shadows stretch across the sidewalk. If they reach for me again, I said softly, they'll only find air. And I meant it. A few days later, while sipping coffee on the couch, I opened my phone out of habit and scrolled through the social media feed I'd mostly ignored for weeks. I hadn't unfollowed anyone, just muted, stepped back. But something still slipped through. A photo from Loris's profile, tagged by a mutual friend. She stood next to a brand new white Lexus, smiling wide with sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. Mom was standing beside her, holding a balloon that said, "Happy birthday." The caption read, "She's always been my queen. Birthday surprise for the strongest woman I know. We love you forever." There were hundreds of likes. A stream of heart emojis. One comment read, "Such a good daughter." I stared at the photo for a full minute. That was the car I had purchased 2 months earlier. Not as a show, not even as a gift really, just a quiet decision after Mom's older car broke down during a winter trip to Salem. I'd wired the money directly to the dealership and let them arrange the paperwork. I never asked for recognition, but I also hadn't expected to be erased again. I tapped into my email, searched for auto financing proof, found the payment confirmation, and hovered over the file. Then I deleted it. It wasn't out of spite. It was just done. I wasn't keeping tabs anymore. The truth was, if they'd asked nicely, I probably would have still helped. That was always the thing about me. I didn't walk away because of one moment. I walked because they counted on never having to notice any of them. Later that afternoon, my phone lit up again. Velma, not a message this time. A call. The name stared at me like an old photograph. Familiar, unchanged, unmoving. I didn't block it. I didn't answer either. I just let it ring, echoing in the room like a bell I'd outgrown. A few seconds later, the red bubble appeared. Voicemail. I didn't open it. Instead, I pressed and held her contact name, dragged it into a folder labeled History, and set it there next to my father's number and the old landline we hadn't used since I was a teenager. Letting go isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's just quiet and final. That night, Naomi came over with lemon cookies she claimed were a little burned, but still edible. We sat at my kitchen table, papers and books and a half-dead succulent scattered between us. I hadn't cleaned up. I didn't feel the need to. She poured tea. I poured wine. We laughed about old jobs, exes, and how she once mistook a coyote for a lost husky and tried to lure it into her car with beef jerky. For the first time in a long while, the laughter wasn't covering anything. It was just there. At one point, she looked at me, really looked, and said, "You seem like you're finished with something." I didn't blink. I didn't flinch. "I'm not angry," I said. "I'm just not available anymore." Naomi nodded. She understood without needing more. After she left, I stayed up and opened my laptop. Not to sort receipts or respond to accusations, but to do something just for me. I typed in travel sites, not luxury ones, just a few modest rentals scattered across Italy. I'd always wanted to see the Amalfi Coast, not through someone else's itinerary, but through my own eyes. I selected a small villa tucked near the cliffs, private terrace, kitchen with old tiled counters, a window facing the sea. Under reservation name, I wrote, Irina Monroe. No one else. I confirmed the booking. The email pinged in seconds, "Your solo journey begins here." I closed the lid, leaned back in the chair, and let the stillness stretch. There would be people who called me cruel, ungrateful. Some had already decided that my silence was an offense. Let them. For years, I had existed on the other end of every call, every problem, every "can you just." I had held up their peace like scaffolding no one ever looked at. Not anymore. The next day, I packed a bag. Not a dramatic suitcase, just enough for the trip. Passport, a few notebooks, a sweater I loved. I placed my phone on the dresser and turned it face down. At the door, I paused and took one last look around, not to say goodbye, just to acknowledge this version of me was complete. I didn't burn their bridge. I just stepped off it.